Do you get a newspaper? Do you get one, I don't know, once a week? I'm not talking about national newspapers and that sort of nonsense in which they publish all sorts of agendas and narratives and lies and goodness knows what. No, I'm talking about your local paper. Very useful this time of year if you've got a little wood-burning stove and you want to get it lit, and you take the old newspaper, mostly full of adverts, isn't it? Let's face it, and screw it all up or turn it into little twisty things and shove it in the fire, put your coal round it or your logs, your kindling, whatever, and get it going. I don't seem to get one of those anymore. I haven't had a local rag, if you like, for, well, I was trying to think about that. It must be years, maybe 5, maybe 10 years. In the old days, they would come, there would be like 2 or 3 from the local area that I live in. But now, nothing. I mean, I used to sort of peruse a bit around it to see if Mrs. Miggin's cat has got loose again, or whether there's going to be a road closure, or whether there's a bit of a historical element down here by the sea where I am. Occasionally you'd get these stories about a shipwrecked ship, or perhaps there's a whole load of timber that's been washed up on the shore, or all that sort of thing. Or if there's a jumble sale, or what about if somebody's died and you look at the births and deaths and all of that. Don't get that anymore. Don't get it. I wonder why. Oh, wait a minute. Is it because the internet has killed the newspapers? And not only the newspapers, didn't it kill the radio stations? Now, I remember we used to have radio stations everywhere for every locality. Wherever you go, you'd be driving around the countryside and suddenly you'd lose the signal, you'd detune. Oh, hang on, there's one here in this town. And then you come out of that town, there'll be another one. Always something interesting going on in the town. I mean, I'm talking 20, 30 years ago, of course. Now, when you put the radio on, it's very bland. You can't tell if the radio station is any different from the previous radio station. I mean, in the past, you'd hear the different dialects, especially if you're travelling up and down the countryside. Maybe from the southeast, you'd hear the sort of, oh, hello there, welcome to our radio station here in the West Country. And then you go up to, I don't know, up to other different places, and you'd hear a different regional accent. But now it's all the same. And have you not noticed, when you do get somebody talking, they're talking down to you as if you're like a 5-year-old kid. It's all very puerile. It's very strange, isn't it? No, I'm talking about the newspapers of the old days and the radio stations locally that used to inform you about things that were going on in your area. Well, we don't have them anymore. Oh, as I say, the internet's come, and what? We're now interested in a whole plethora of different things, but nothing that's in our back door. And that's a shame, because if we were aware of what's going on in our back door, perhaps we wouldn't have half the mess that's going on. You know, these buildings, these ugly buildings that suddenly spring up that somebody somewhere has approved. Now, where I am, there's this massive tall building. It's a bit crooked, and it has this wibbly-wobbly veranda all the way round it. It's won an award, apparently. But I live in the seaside area, and here it's supposed to be a Victorian, Edwardian seaside town. You wouldn't think that from the kind of architecture that's coming, all the essence of the seaside town that people would flock down to the seaside for to take the water. By the way, they used to come and take the water because it was healthy. Back in those days, of course, people weren't pumping effluent into the water. The salt water, of course, the sea salt, was actually good for you. People would drink a pint of that and then have a bit of a lie down in the sunshine, get the vitamin C, because they were coming from the town where it was all clogged up with coal and what have you. But of course, people should be taking a bit of Celtic sea salt with their water so that you get the salt into the blood. We've been told for years that salt, oh, it's bad for you, gives you a heart problem. No, it's actually quite the reverse. Like so much in life that we've been told at the moment, everything's flipped the other way. Have you noticed? Yeah, of course you have. Anyway, we used to have all this lovely architecture, and anywhere you'd go round in Britain, you would see the sort of different type of architecture of the seaside. It sort of had its own way, you know. Well, that's been wiped out. The architecture of this country is looking very bland and boring. But we would know about that if, of course, there was a radio station that you could tune into that was interesting, that was telling you about things in your backyard, or a newspaper that was reporting on all of this. Where's it all gone? Seems to have vanished, and we've taken our eye off the ball. We're more interested in things that are going on overseas, in places that we can do no influence whatsoever. It's not actually happening to us, and we're feeling all very fearful for people that we're never ever going to meet. And yet there are things going on in our locality that perhaps we ought to be aware of. Certain things that the council are planning, that this road is suddenly becoming a 20-mile-an-hour speed zone. This is going to be a 15-minute city. This is how your surveillance is happening down at the local supermarket. I mean, we should be reporting on this. We should be reading on this. We should be appalled at all of this. We should be going to the council meetings and saying, oi, we saw this in the paper last week, we're not having it. But because we don't have those local lines of communication anymore, we don't know. We're being dumbed down by all the nonsense that's happening in the soaps, made up rubbish on the radio, made up nonsense on the television, and we're all concerned about that. We're reading the glossy magazines to find out what film star's done what with whom. Not that that really is going to change anything, but the things that are important that actually affect us, the new rules that perhaps you can't go out of your front gate with a dog without a poo bag, without some nosy Parker man from the government or from the council coming up and saying, excuse me, have you got a poo bag on you? Because if you haven't, I'm fining you £100, as happened to one of my viewers recently. If we were a little bit more informed about the somewhat nonsense stuff, we would have more incentive to push back and say, actually, that building is no good. We want to save that pub. You can't just cut that lot out there. What about the grass verges? Maybe we don't want them cut. Maybe we want more wildlife. And what's going on in the parks? Why are you taking away those kid things? Why are you not mending this? Why are you not repairing that? We pay our taxes. Where is our taxes going? Are they going to some consolidate fund in the central government? Why have we got more of these 5Gs? If we were being informed a little bit more, or we took more of an interest, took back responsibility for what's going in and around our neighbourhood, perhaps we could build back those communities. Well, of course, you need a licence these days to run a radio station. People do them for small pop-up events. But maybe with the internet, maybe with the YouTube and maybe some of these other platforms, we could get people back together again and bring back more of this community radio. Make it interesting, make it appealing, tell people what's going on, perhaps bring out a newspaper. It might be online to save a bit of money, but get people involved. Where are we going to grow the local food that we need? Where is the nearest organic food hub, for example? How can we help farmers, local farmers, produce those things that we need in our lives? Instead of just acquiescing to the nonsense that's coming down the line, perhaps we should be more engaged with what's going in our locality. Now, I would surmise, and this is only my opinion, and of course you're allowed to disagree with my opinion, that this has been a deliberate thing to get us away from the local papers, to get us away with what's going on in our communities, in our immediate neighbourhood, what is happening there about this and that and the other, and maybe that we want to push back and say, actually, do you know what? We don't want this. What are the things we want to? Where are the parish rooms? Where are the nice tea dances and the English country dancing and the various events that we can go to and be part of the community and rejoin and have cohesion again? That's what we need. We need people to get back and bring those lines of communication, because if everyone was doing that, if this town did it and that town did it and that town did it and that town did it, and they all started to say, oh, look, we're doing this and this is happening here and this is happening here, and people got back into the community, those things that we don't want that suddenly just appear out of nowhere, which they go, oh, well, it was planning. Didn't you come to the planning office? Didn't you put up your protest then? You had the chance. Yes, but you've advertised in the most obscure places, not in front of everybody who actually lives here. Maybe if we start to think about bringing back those lines of communication, get people interested in their town, get people thinking and talking and communicating and saying, do you know what, is this medical intervention really such a good idea? Do we need more of this? Is the one size top down thing really what we want? Or is it more about grassroots, us making the policies and telling our representatives, this is what we want here, not what you're offering us, not this meagre choice of you've got to have this or we'll come and take your house away. No, I think the people have got to make the decision, but that in order to do that, we need to be informed. So I'm saying perhaps with the amount of technology and the fact that we've got this digital world, we should be taking advantage of it and maybe producing our own papers again and bring back some form of radio, a digital radio station or an online television station that we can actually inform people what's going. It's relatively cheap to do this. You don't need much. You could run it on your phone. So that's the plea that I'm putting forward to people. We need to get these lines of communication going so that we, the people, can come back together again and decide what future we want in our neighbourhoods and not what they want for us.